times build character.
This isn't just a show, this is real life. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish.
You gotta see it before anyone else can see it.
Every second, every minute, every day.
We train for life. We got you.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode number 14, the Relentless Way podcast. Today we are going to talk a lot about the importance and uses of patience along your journey and what it means to them, which is us, right? So
Absolutely.
We're crazy excited. Paul Vaguiero, as always, and my longtime business partner and friend, Matt Strout. And we have a very special guest, which everyone is very familiar with because we've done a lot of things here with John Vaguiero, founder and CEO of Adapting Social, the one and only, out of Bay Head, New Jersey. I say Bay Head, New Jersey now because I want to highlight and remind everyone that these guys are all over the world, Adapting Social. It's not just New Jersey, they're all over the place, right?
Jersey, New York, Miami. We're opening up Miami. Nobody knows that yet. We're opening up Miami in 2 weeks.
I'm excited about that one.
And then we're in the UK.
Yes, UK.
Yes.
So they're adapting social everywhere, and that's what we love about them. We work closely with them. For Relentless, we work closely with John, with his team. Unbelievable people. A great topic today. We had to get the cameras rolling early because we started rolling as we always do, us three. So to start it off, man, what does patience mean to you?
Before we dive in, you flew this guy Madden for this podcast? How do we get this guy here?
Baby.
How do we get this guy here? I can't believe I'm sitting next to this guy right now.
Right? Let's get it.
You can see the excitement.
We're gonna get it. Yeah.
No, we're gonna get it. But I think one of the so the reason why this was like we started early is because we started having this conversation initially about the fact that like what the fuck is patience, right? Realistically, especially when you're grinding and you're at a certain, depending upon what level or phase of your life that you're in, that's when I guess it applies to ask that question, like what level of patience are you supposed to have patience, right? So when I got the text, obviously with the podcast, information and what it's going to be on, I'm sitting there and I remember, like I told you guys, I was on another podcast and patience came up again. And I'm like, damn, like I don't have patience for certain things, right? Certain things I definitely do, right? But certain things, especially with business and wanting to get stuff done, like it's hard, I think, for most people.
For sure.
So, what is patience to me? I look at it in a different perspective. I don't like to use the word patience because I'm not a patient person myself. Like that's just the fact, especially in business. So, when it comes to what I'm going to replace that word with, I'm going to replace that word with faith, right? So I have faith. So obviously, typically you're supposed to say, hey, have patience that everything's going to work out, right? So like big picture, whatever it is you're looking to do, you have to have patience, whether it's growing your social media, growing your business. Over time, you'll get to where you need to be. Just have the patience and you'll get there. But I don't think it's patience that gets you there, which was my conflict initially. Like you acting, the art of patience doesn't get you anywhere, right?
100%.
I know so many patient people that don't do jack shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can I curse?
It's so true. Yeah.
Can I curse on this?
We tested out a couple episodes. We tested out.
Is this okay?
We tested out a couple episodes with Kayla from Bro, and we were all good. We didn't get flagged at all.
You're good. Let it fly,
So
man.
it just matters what you have your podcast rated as. Like mine's rated fucking R.
That's what I noticed on there.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, so I think it's having faith, right? Having faith over patience, and because to me, I think the most important ingredient in anybody who's going to do something big in life is their hunger, right? That's why you see so many people that are successful that didn't go to college or didn't finish college. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, the top industry titans that are still alive today. None of them have a degree, right? But they were so fucking hungry, right? So that means they didn't have. I think there takes a certain level of being wise enough to be patient. But then there's so many people that we know that literally are smart, but they don't fucking execute. But they're patient. So it's a conflicting thing to say to people. So for me, instead of using the words, hey, boom, patience means this to me, I think it's having faith in yourself, but having extreme hunger to get out there and get after it, right? And I think, as we were saying before too, so patience, I think, in a different level, right? So I think obviously hunger and who you are as an entrepreneur or as a business owner or even as an employee, things change over the time, right? Like when somebody first started, like you hear like these stories for like these stockbrokers, like when they were first starting off in the mailroom, and they were hungry and they were fucking doing mail. Then they got upstairs, they were working 3 days straight without sleeping, and then boom. But then they're in their career for 10, 15, 20 years, and are they doing the same thing? No, they're not. They don't have that same hunger anymore, right? And now they bring a different level. Now I think patience comes into it because they did so much right. So I don't know. I think patience could be looked at as negative in my opinion too. You know, like I don't know what you guys think about that, but like patience, like if you're patient, things will pass you by.
I could get more on board with it, and I think before we got on air and started recording, you were trying to figure out how you were going to separate it. And I think you just did, right? Like you figured it. We figured it out because that's really what it is. Is like, especially us three sitting right here, we're not big focusers on like the negative and on being patient, and that's something that we're not good at. So how could we develop patience in a sense, but use something that's going to keep us moving forward, and that's faith.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So I think that's huge, and you just separated it right there, and it made a little more sense because for those of you that didn't see, Brian tried hitting record before, but John, we were in our conversation, said to Matt, I don't think you're both patient. He's 100% right, and he said I'm not patient. I struggle with patience in a sense, right?
Not me.
So I think that separation that you just made just hits the nail on the head. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. I think before we get Matt started like a lawnmower right now, he's priming right now. This guy, he's fucking priming over this guy. He's not saying nothing. He's getting ready. But I think the biggest thing though is when I say having faith and patience and patience could be negative. Right. I think it's you know what's so funny? There's so many different people and personalities on this planet, right? like the guy, like perfect example, like the fucking the guy who invented the vacuum, Dyson, right? Which is like the Apple computer of vacuums. Yeah. Right? It's like, dude is not like a energetic, out there, crazy, like fucking guy. Like he's just not that dude. He's like reserved, highly intelligent. I don't think he's patient either when I've heard him in different conversations. But I think no matter what personality type you have, whether you're type A or whatever, like if you have patience, I don't think that you can achieve certain levels of greatness. Because if you look at Steve Jobs in Apple, right? Like he's one of like the biggest like virtual mentors I've had for over the past like 12, 13 years. And this fucking guy, like everybody loves this guy outside of like there's like fans and consumers who buy Apple products love Steve Jobs. People have worked for Steve Jobs, but this guy is an incredible asshole. Right. Yeah. Like one of the biggest assholes I've ever met in my fucking life. Yes. And I actually had somebody on my podcast who worked with him that's pretty cool. At Apple in the beginning phases. Oh, cool. And the dude was like telling me like how one day Steve was like they were going to buy a company. And the company they were going to buy, because Apple really wanted to acquire this company, right? Again, showcasing no patience. They're like, we really want this company, And they had to prep the board to get ready to talk to Steve, because they wanted to buy the company. They knew Steve was going to be a dick. And Steve walks in and goes, he said they're at this fucking long Apple boardroom table, like 12 people. And he goes, all right, what piece of shit company am I buying today? But like, everyone's like, dude, the dude was a fucking complete asshole. But like, when you look at, there's Apple products in every single one of our pockets. Like, there's Apple products all over the world. If he had patience, we wouldn't know who Steve Jobs is. Right?
Well, so I was just gonna say, in that moment, that's what you're differentiating. Like, I want to bring the focus more to like.
I think patience is a cop out.
Yeah,
it just came up to me.
Yeah,
patience is a cop out.
So like, at what place, at what moment? But again, like you said though, patience is a small piece and important factor in certain situations. But at what moments in your life do you use other things, like you said with the Jobs example, right? Like like he was further and beyond patience. He knew that he had just enough, but he also knew, like you said, if he was patient in that moment, shit wouldn't have got done, right?
100%.
So for you, in your journey, your long journey, what are moments that you kind of could go back to and remember where you used other factors and other attributes of yourself to push patience down? Because realistically, being impatient is like a negative thing. You know what I mean?
It is.
Yeah.
No, listen, I think it's a negative and a positive, but I think.
Right.
But here's the thing. So
it's like
sorry,
we're playing ping pong right now.
it is.
It's fun though, but
It is.
it really is. Man.
It is the verbal joust.
Yeah.
But are we jousting?
Funny and
But-
handsome. Look at
Yeah.
that.
But I think to that point, to name a time that I've had to push patience aside, I think has been my whole life. The name of my boat is impulsive. Right? Because I'm impulsive. If I want to do something, I just don't fucking do it. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to lose money. I'm not afraid to get my ass kicked in something. I will do it just for the experience.
And if you focus too much on patience in those moments, you wouldn't be impulsive.
Yeah, right.
Seriously.
Right. But I think, when you just said that before, and you're like, yeah, patience. Because I think about like when somebody uses the word patient, right? Like to somebody, right? Like nobody's ever said. I don't think anybody's ever said, I'm so happy about how patient you are. But they've said, Matt, listen, it's not going your way right now. You just got to be patient. You just got to be patient, right? That's the only time I've ever really heard that word
So
used.
true.
When it's like somebody's trying to cop out, like, yo, it's all right. It's going to be okay. Just be patient, right? See, I'd rather, in a moment, I don't like using that word because patient to me is idle, right?
Like almost
Instead, hey,
almost.
have a little more faith. Let's get
Right.
this done now. That's
Right.
right. And instead,
100%,
it's
right.
forward moving, and that's what
Right.
our minds.
Listen,
are.
have faith that this is going to work out. Maybe it's not happening right at this moment, right? Like, I guess I don't know. Like, when I first started adapting social, right? And I was going door to door to door to door. I'm 17 years old. I'm going to pizzerias in a fucking suit.
You weren't being patient.
No, but I remember I went. So that year, at the end of that calendar or fiscal year, I go to my parents' accountant, and he looks at my statement. He's like, you made $4,602.13, and he's like, this ain't a fucking. He's like, John, between us, because I've known him for a long time. He's like, John, between us, like this is a fucking flop. This ain't gonna, like, for $4,000 in a whole year, you can't live off that. And I remember thinking in my head, I was like, yeah, but I didn't fucking lose any money, bro. I'm like, I'm living home. Fucking, I got it good. Like, I'm not fucking.
I just made $4,000.
Yeah, I made $14,000. This guy's a fucking idiot. But I guess looking back at it now, somebody could say, because I looked at that moment and I still saw opportunity. I don't know if it was patience, but like I still saw and had faith in the future, right? So, but a time that I had to display patience though is when it comes to team and employee, dude, for sure.
Right.
Like, and even clients sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like those are different things where it's like you have to display. But then again, in those moments, like you have to display patience, but I don't know if it's actually patience. Like I don't know if I'm actually displaying patience.
I think you are though. I think you're right. You're right about that. If they're for what we're talking about, the smaller percentage, especially with the way guys like us operate.
Yeah.
I think that those are the moments where patience is really positive and beneficial for us. But we're also instilling faith and instilling those other things in those people too.
Correct.
But we're being patient.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know why. Like, it's crazy how like when I like the more I think about this word, it just feels negative to me.
Yeah. I think this is the most controversial topic in the world right now.
It's gonna be reported on fucking news. but yeah, I don't know. I think, and the only advice that I would give to anybody out there that's watching, specifically about patience and your journey in your career or in your potential business that you'd be starting, is so I think the only way that I could try, because right now I'm gonna go against the grain here and try to use patience as a positive, right? Because I'm such an antagonist right now to patience.
For
It's
sure.
crazy. I don't even know. I woke up. I don't know why I hate this word. Like I didn't even realize I got a fucking hard on for patience. I don't know what the fuck happened. But I think the one thing that I would tell people though is, when you look at your life in a macro sense, there is certain patience should only be applied if you're going to quit, right? Because it's like, yo, listen, in the big scheme of things, in the macro scheme of things, if you bust your ass every day, you show up, you meet new people, you try to get better at your craft, you look at what you could be doing better, you're self-aware, every single day, and you personally develop yourself every single day, which is challenging even on the weekends. But you do the PD every fucking day. You're gonna be okay, right? But some people, right? Like I remember me, like you want it right now. Like, this guy down the street, fucking crushing it. You know, like I want to be successful right now. That would be the area where I'd be like, no, you need to chill out because you're not going to be making $1 million a year, you know, in 6 months. Like it's not going to happen, right? So it's like that's the only way that I can think about saying, listen, you have to. I still hate to say it, but like, you know, again, you have to be patient. Oh, you have to be patient, but bust your fucking ass, and it's gonna work out. Like I try to use it in a sentence for you.
Yeah,
you know, like,
I love it.
I try to.
So I'm gonna piggyback off of that now.
Hold on, he's getting started. Hold up.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that. So coming into this today, before hearing this, right? Because I do like this. It's opening up my mind. It's allowing me to look at things differently.
Yeah.
Coming in. When I see that, right, getting prepped and thinking about that word, it's a word we talk about obviously forever because it's a word that comes up. As we've studied, someone I study a lot and listen to, Andy Frisella, he said once a while back, and it resonated with me from the way that I am and the way that I carry myself, and he uses the term aggressive patience, okay, which then goes hand in hand and ties into someone else who I like, and I read a lot of his books, Jocko, who wrote The Dichotomy of Leadership, which these are two opposing forces, aggressive patience, they're complete opposites, right? So when I look at them, I look at it as like a tool on my tool belt, okay? And I look at it as, I'm going to go off of what you just said. So aggressive patience for me is because I'm not a patient person, right? So you are right. I had to learn, these are learned things, right? This isn't like I am the most irrational, I can be short-tempered, non-patient person, the way I became who I needed to become.
You shifted your behavior.
I shifted my behaviors. So for me, aggressive patience is understanding the big vision and picture, the macro, like you said, and seeing it, knowing it, and then backtracking to winning the day, and being aggressive in my day-to-day personal development, make my calls, network, follow up, be aggressive in my day-to-day actions, but then be patient in knowing that, or be faithful now, right, which I like that, but being patient that my day-to-day aggressive action is going to win the long game. So to have
knowing the result's going to come.
Knowing the results will come. So using it as a tool. But again, when you speak upon it and reframe it, I do have faith tattooed on me. I do believe in faith.
I do too, actually.
Faith is believing in something you cannot see.
Actually,
do you really?
Shoulder,
Whoa, hey!
Oh my God!
The three faith musketeers. What are we doing here?
Right? So like
that's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like so I do. I
grandparents
love faith.
are right. We forget about it. We put it on our body. we don't even look at it.
Yeah,
it's true.
Mine's faith and family. That's crazy. But you know, I love that you said that way. I was fucking fired. See, once you get this guy started up, man, fucking going.
But more fuel.
That's it. No, this guy runs off. He's solar powered.
Coffee.
Yeah, there you go. But to your point though, you know what I was thinking about? So I started. So me and my wife, we stopped, and we started to focus on like absorbing content through TV that is more so based off of like learning and expanding our minds, like you just said, right? So like right now I've been watching a lot of like Nat Geo and things like that, like History Channel. So I started watching this one thing. It's on Disney Plus for anybody who wants to watch it, but it's called the Story of Mankind, the most greatest story ever told. Right? That's a little tagline. I was like, damn, that's good. But anyway, they start talking about these fucking Neanderthals, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe millions and millions of years ago, that were on this planet, didn't have none of this shit, right? And so when we say patience, right, I just picture, you know, if we were all back in that time and we see a fucking, you know, animal that we need to hunt and kill for our families that we can eat tonight, like, I can't be making a ruckus and running around because then I'm going to scare everybody away, all these animals away from me, right? But you have to be patient. But I think, to your point, which you said so fucking perfectly, you pull out that one belt, or that one artillery in your tool belt, and it's that patience. We're hiding in the fucking bushes right now, waiting, right? We're sitting here waiting. But when that moment is right, you're fucking insanely aggressive.
Right? Potentially one of the most intense moments, right?
Right. Yeah. So I think, when I'm thinking like our reptilian brain that we were put on this planet initially, because we weren't put on this planet to make podcasts and do this initially.
Sure.
Correct.
It's evolved.
100%.
But, you know, so it's like that thought process that like in those times, patience was required to be successful in hunting. and all those different things. But I think the only thing that I'm taking away from this right now, though, is that because there's different things, right? Obviously,
where is patience required?
Right. I mean, in business, in certain areas, or in different types. Like if you're a doctor, and you have something going on, I'm sure, or if you're a scientist and you're in NASA, you're putting something in space, or you're Jeff Bezos or fucking Branson, whoever else is fucking
whoever's going to space.
It's like there's definitely patience required in different things. I just I think it's bad to be too patient. So I think you're a fucking beast of a human if you have that component to be able to, like I said, you're sitting here in the woods, you're waiting.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden when your moment's ready, you fucking attack because you have to go get it. Right? You're not overly patient. Mm-hmm. And I think the word or the phrase that too much of anything is not good, right? So too much of patience is terrible. Too much of impulsive is terrible. Too much of whatever, Mm-hmm. So, the only thing that's not bad is too much of Matt. That's the only thing. Paul's like, don't be that. Paul's like, no,
you can't be no patience with that. You just gotta let him go.
I'm gonna throw something else out that complements what you just said from Jocko that he uses by when he plays with these two dynamics.
Yeah.
He falls in, which I love, and we're all gonna love this. But he says default aggressive.
Yeah.
So your default is aggressive.
Yes.
You have to know when to pull the patient tool out.
Right.
But otherwise, it's forward thinking. We all compliment that all the time. It's forward.
Yes.
If something doesn't go right, it's not like, all right. You have to be able to be like, all right, this didn't work. What do I do now? I got to change this, call that, shift this, boom. All right, and then keep it moving. So I couldn't be so patient could also be complacency or
it could turn into that fast.
It could turn into that very quickly.
Right.
So again, it has to be used as a tool. I think for me as well, being involved in coaching boxing and fighting and studying the art for so many years and just respecting the game of human versus human combat, it has taught me so many things. So I've been able to take those, between that and business, there's such a beautiful, catalyst to each other of understanding. When I started coaching, and then started moving around and sparring with different people and moving around and understanding and seeing human. You're studying a human is what you're doing, right? And in the beginning, we all, I know I did, right? Especially young, think I got it all going on. You start out a little overzealous,
Correct.
a little too aggressive. I had no patience.
Right.
So you come out for 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes sounds short. But when you have another human, that's a long time. So all of a sudden, if I'm too aggressive, now I can't breathe. I'm tired, my heart rate's pumping, and now I got 2 minutes and 40 seconds left.
Yeah.
That's not good, okay?
Yeah.
So what I had to learn from sparring and moving around with all different types of individuals is how to implement aggressive patience in the most high-level stressful scenario, which is human versus human.
Right.
So you need to know how to be patient, how to be calm. There's a really cool saying the Navy SEALs use, and I use it all the time as well when I coach either people in life and fighters as well, but slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Navy SEALs, they operate as one
Correct.
One group.
Correct.
Okay, they train, they rep. It's very hard to go slow.
Right.
Slow is smooth though. Smooth leads to fast. So
Correct.
for me, I personally take time and take moments to do things that require. The only way to get patient is to do things that require patience. I've recently taught myself how to juggle. Juggling for me is a tool that I literally sit, and this is me working on my patience.
Right.
It also enhances dexterity, eye-hand coordination, my decision-making skills, quick.
Right.
Because I'm focused, I'm in that moment. I'm using both my hands, I'm doing these things. So to me, that complements my patience. That's a tool for me.
Totally.
So I think, again, it's a time and a place to use it, but if you just stay in it, it ain't no good. But if you go the other way too, you might run yourself down as well. So I will say, more aggressive than not, but it's a really cool tool to have. And I think the other thing you said way earlier when we first started is wisdom. Wisdom is a great word. So we can all say that we are not the same individuals we were when we started our individual journeys here. So I think now also think about it, and fighting shows you this too over time, but business shows you this. Do you have more things going on now than you did then? How many more things do you have going on right now than you did in the beginning?
Yeah,
just overall, you have probably way more, right?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
But you see things differently. You watch Tom Brady play football, okay?
He's fucking master.
It's slow.
Right.
He sees the game slow. So we could say that the wisdom the patience, the time in will allow you to play the game differently. So I was saying now I'm probably more patient than ever, but I'm also more aggressive than ever too. So it's like, it's almost like you're seeing things through different eyes. So would we have acted differently ever in the beginning? Would we ever go back knowing what we know now and do things differently? I would say no. I would straight up say no way.
Well, we needed that. Listen, every level has different size ladders, right? So when you first start, that ladder, you know, the way that we act, the way that what we do, like you guys wouldn't be sitting here if you weren't as, you know, aggressive and obviously had the hunger and the impatience or patience to get to where you are. And then as you continue to build and grow, different levels require different components in your artillery belt, right?
That ladder
different
taller,
levels, right? So like me, like as an example, actually this is the perfect fucking example, I think.
Yeah, it is.
So here we go.
We got
Fucking start that mower back up. But like, it's like, so viscerally, I am a talker. I'm not a good listener, right? I don't, in my normal world, because I always want to move.
Yeah,
so like, I'm a talker, right? So I've always, and it's only up until probably when my executive coach, you know, and I was like, you know, I need you to beat the shit out of me. Like, don't give me some bitch shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was joking around. I like Diddy saying that bitch ass this doesn't fucking exist. Right? So I'm like, don't bitch ass me. Fucking give it to me real raw. Right. So so again, like one of the biggest things I had to be self-aware about was my listening skills, because it was evident to him, and at the time to me I was blinded by it, but I was like, you don't fucking listen to anybody. Like, you need to start listening.
And you're like, wait, stop.
Oh, no, Jeff, hold on.
Hold on, let me explain.
Yeah. He's like, oh.
Here's why I can think you think that.
Yeah.
But he's like, you know, so I started working on that, and now, like, you know, he would say, listen, like, when I'm at the table with my executive team, right, he would be like, listen, like, you know, you're always doing the talking, right? Like, a good leader has to have patience in sitting there and asking the opinions at the table first prior to giving his opinion or her opinion.
Moments, yep.
So, you know, in the past, I'd be like, yo, guys, you know, what do you think of this water, right? I love it. It's fucking great, right? You guys like this water, or what do you think?
Building
right?
the answers for them.
Correct, right? So I'm already saying shit. I'm like, here's what I think, right? Whereas as of now, you know, I have to have this different, my role now is different than it was back then. It's evolved to the point where now it's like, I need a leader, and this is one thing, again, I learned from Steve Jobs, mixed with Tony Robbins, but it's like, a leader has one job, and it's consistently coaching and helping people get better, right? And so if we're sitting here and you know, say something wrong or you do something wrong, and I constantly fix it, I'm doing you a disservice, right? Because you're not able to learn and grow, right? So I have to constantly coach you, challenge you, see why that happened so that you can figure it out for yourself so it doesn't happen again. And I think that, for me, is the patient game, too. But again, that's why I said employees and clients are definitely patience has to be required. Yeah. Because there are so many times where, like, we all have been there, like, let me just do it myself because I get done quick. I don't have to explain anything or go through it, right? So I think those times are where that artillery comes out of having to be patient. But as a leader, right, and any growing organization or things like that, it's super, super important that you have that just cognitive awareness of, like, when to say certain things, when not to say certain things, when to let your team speak, when to not let your team speak, and then to be a good listener, right? Because I think that's the biggest thing that I'm learning as a leader.
For sure.
People want to feel like they're heard.
Yes.
Right? And for so
they
long,
want to be heard. They just want to feel. They want to.
100%.
They want it to be heard and action to be taken on your end, especially you as a leader. You know?
Yeah.
I think ultimately what we're really describing as a whole is that, like, patience is always has to be, for us especially, complemented with something else. It doesn't work on its own.
No.
Right? I think that's huge. And going back to, you started to touch on a little bit here, I want you to go a little more into it. And I had this noted, and it was something I really wanted to hear from you because you have been working and growing and developing a team. But go more into your team and your clients and how you've had to make those adjustments, like you were just explaining a little bit, you know?
Yeah, well, I think, again, it's like, I gotta see if patience is the right word for this, but I'll go client first, right?
Yeah.
So over the past, 12, 13 years, I've been in situations where, clients could be, unrealistic or have, like, put big challenges in front of us or whatever. And
when you say big challenges, meaning like things that they're just not, as what you do, they're not there yet.
Well, let me give you an example.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like we work with older people, right? So like older people, like for example, like even I'll say fairly recently, we're working with one of these guys right now who is a fucking complete badass. This dude's like in his 70s, owns strip plazas, and in one of the strip plazas back in the day, he started a hair salon, right? And he's been there for 50 years, and his front desk person just retired. She's been there with him since day one of opening, 50 years. And so, when we sent him over all his documents to get started and stuff like that, he had to come in and come fill them out because we were going back and forth on the phone. Like my assistant was going back and forth on the phone. I'm like, hey, you have to click here, click here. He's like, it's not. The internet site is not working. Like, it's not happening. Like, and she's like, well, no, you got to click this. She's like, just come in. It's like things like that require a level of patience. Like,
for sure.
This guy, you're here to serve this person. And I think that listen, we're opening up a whole new window into our minds here. Because it's like when it comes to clients, or when it comes to even family, right?
Yeah.
Friends.
I was going to throw that.
When it comes to people you care about or you serve, that's where patience comes in.
Yes.
I think when it comes to other people, patience is a big deal, right? Like a huge deal. Like point in case, my wife.
Right.
Patience. so in all reality, though, right? So it's like seriously though. And I talk to her about this all the time.
So true.
No, yeah.
And it's like the people you care about. Like I serve my wife. Like you guys serve your wives. Like
sure.
That's what we're here to do. They serve us. Like
So
it's like the thing is like when you're in the process of serving, in the act of serving somebody, right? Whoever it is, clients, team, family, friends, whoever. At the end of the day, patience is always required because you're talking to another human being who thinks about things differently, right? And has a different perspective on certain things. Where in the past, like me and Chris, for example, and he could testify to this, we used to bump heads so fucking much, right? And the one thing for me at professional development that was fucking huge for me was there's this company called Nextjump. They're like a $2+ billion company. They do HR. They do all these really cool things like for Samsung, the biggest companies in the world, including they work with the U.S. Army, Navy, the British Royal Army. Like they come and they teach them culture.
Wow.
Like these different organizations, like how to do culture the right way. Here's the right tools to build a better culture. All these different things, right? And they offer a lot of cool things like perks at work and stuff. But anyway, we're sitting there at this one training, and I'm sitting here in a room with people that are high-ranking in the fucking Army, Navy, people who are in the British Royal Army, people that are executives at Samsung, like crazy, right? And because they're our client, we have access to these events, thank God, right? So me and Chris are there, and they start talking about professional arguments and how most people detract from those things because they don't want to get into arguments or fights with other with their other coworkers or your partner or whoever.
It's negative.
Right, it's a negative thing, and everyone thinks the worst. But they were bringing to light an example where they were literally bumping heads, yelling, screaming, cursing, and the lady essentially threw something at him, right? And everybody in the room was like, yo, that's completely crazy, like you should never do that, whatever else. And what they brought to light was, guys, listen, arguments and fights happen, but they clear a certain space between two people when you can do that. Like, if I can look at you and be like, you're fucking up, do something about it and stop being a fucking bitch, right? Like, if I can be that level of realness, again, I would never say it to
depends on the relationship and who. And
100%.
Yeah.
Partner is different.
Well, you might also, depending on what your relationship is with them and where the
you
levels
would say
are.
the same thing with different words, maybe.
Right.
But something direct. Yep.
Right? Like, just like you're saying something blunt and raw.
Yeah.
Right? If you can have raw communication with somebody in any way, shape, or form, right? In a professional, again, it depends on who it is, whatever. But they gave us this example, and everyone that was in the room was like, damn, because they were going at it. That's wrong. But so what their job is to do in their different places like Samsung and the other places, that it's not wrong to fight and argue in a professional place, right? You don't want to do it in front of your clients or people, but
in your setting of
100%.
growth,
And I think this is where patience has entered here for me and Chris as my example, because me and Chris would bump heads because we would really never agree on the same things pretty much all the time. Like I would say 80% chance him and I had some sort of opposing view on a topic. And I would just get so frustrated. And I'd be like, but again, I wouldn't express it the way I wanted to. I would try to, because back in the day, I was more of a people pleaser in the first few levels of my career, where I was like, if I don't agree with you, whatever else. And over time, it's just gotten to the point where it was like, I'm frustrated with this guy. He knows I'm frustrated. We're both frustrated, but we're both not saying it, and we're both not doing
getting to the solution point.
Correct. Yeah. Well, we would try to get the solution, but we would fluff it and beat on the bush.
For sure.
Go to this event, it's like, no, you could do that, but at the end of it, square up. Just make sure you're good, right? Yeah. There's such a thing as clearing the space between you guys, and there's a patience to have to do that because you don't want to harbor anything. Mm-hmm. So.
Because if you don't just to add, that space starts growing, and that's what starts separating people, whether it be a loved one or a partner, and it's just not good.
Matt and I talk about this a lot, and to make sure you guys don't feel alone, but that obviously you're in a room full of people talking about moments, and everyone's probably looking around and goes, oh, they do it too? They do it too? Because it's not normal, but it's a phase and it's a point that you go through. Right. But once you get past that ability to find a way to operate to clear that space, you could get to different levels. And I think that's the difference is again, I want to remind everyone that's listening that the three of us speaking here and a lot of you as listeners, you're probably shaking your head and relating to us because obviously you're bettering yourself. You're trying to listen to some education, some podcast to get information in your head, but we all are probably way of mode thinking is forward, and we want to look at patients as negative. But what we're understanding is that it's not non-existent. Mm-hmm. It's not a tool to be used, but it's what is used with it and in what situations. So as another example, Matt and I obviously have gone through similar moments, and people always ask us, but we don't look at it like that because I don't know the details of yours and Chris's relationship, but I think we overcame that earlier on because we grew up we were friends for a year. So we hit that at a certain moment where going into it, him and I, that was done and over with. Got it. We knew, hey, we got past that point. We're gonna go at it like brothers or like business partners will a little bit for certain topics, and we're even gonna acknowledge in that conversation, all right, we'll rehash this tomorrow because we know when we come back in different minds, both of us, our direction will change a little bit and we'll blend it. Right. Or honestly, in certain moments, I might look at him and say, yo, we're going to go exactly what you said. I thought about it in that moment, and I was impatient. I was fired up. I was being a little too aggressive. I didn't find my balance. We're going to go what you said, or vice versa. He does it to me. Yes. Man, now that you really say it, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, totally.
Or a blend,
Yeah, listen, and I think that's the thing. It's but also, I also want people that are listening to professionally and unprofessionally. No, it's okay to fight and argue, and I think patience throughout that process is important. Sure. Because conflict, right? Conflict is always looked at as a bad thing, right? And that's what it's called. I'm sorry, it's professional conflict.
Yes.
So, and it's awesome that you guys had that ability to be friends and then jump into it, which typically is tough for most people, right? Yeah. But with me and Chris in that example, that day after we left that event, we both agreed. We're like, listen, we're gonna take off the gloves, get a little scrappy, and so we did, and it was super refreshing or whatever else, and I think it opened me up also to his ideas and stuff like that, because I would be closed-minded, he'd be closed-minded. So it's such a big thing. But then again, another thing I think about when it comes to patients too is for instance, my grandma, right? My grandma's she's 83, 85, and literally when I'm on the phone with her, she talks super slow, and she asks me how things going, I'm doing stuff, and before COVID, and when I was really jamming and running around, before the world realized we could fucking operate in PJs from home, I literally was fucking got Matty Cheese Doodles over here.
But you got to go back to Breaking Bad.
Last episode. But my point though is a year ago when I was fucking running around everywhere, doing this, doing that, doing this, I was commuting and shit, and my grandma would call me. I would literally I would kind of rush her a little bit off the phone, and I didn't have the patience, right? Yeah. And I had to be self-aware about that because again, and speaking up people, right? Because I think like my grandma has done so much for me in my fucking life. It's insane. So even for adapting social in the beginning, she was my bookkeeper in the beginning. You know, she was all this stuff. So even to date, like that's why over the pandemic we actually brought her in. She lived with me to get out of like my she lives with my mom right now, my dad and my brothers. So like they were in and out of the house during COVID. So I was like, nah, you can come with me. You know, you don't worry about me and Jacqueline being in and out. So like, I got to spend more time with her. And after that, it's like, you know, listen, you gotta. People like that, like I think with patience, there's a respect layer.
Yes.
Like you're patient for people you love and respect.
Yes.
Right? I'm not going to be patient for somebody I don't fucking care about.
Correct.
Until that
Yes.
respect is built and that love is built.
Yeah.
You know, so but like for somebody like that, like my grandma has tenfold, and I'm sure all of our grandmas or mothers, whatever, have tenfold earned that patience and respect, right? I think that's another thing too. Like you have to, for people who are not viscerally patient, right, and it has to be a learned behavior that's in your tool belt. Like that's something that not everybody's going to be blessed with from me. Like not everybody's going to be able to get patience out of me. Like it's just not going to happen.
For sure.
Right? Ask the guy who's fixing my boat. Like, you know, there's zero patience here right now.
How's this guy patient or what?
Yeah.
And that may change over when he's fixing it for the 10th time, the 15th time. There might be a different relationship. But I think, or I know that people that understand that has to be built, that's where everyone's minds need to be.
Yeah.
Is knowing that, like, you going into and however you respond to that boat guy or he responds to you, you both understand that ultimately in the end this could be a great relationship and it's going to be.
Right.
But we have to go through this and learn and build a level of respect in between.
Totally, dude. And I think it's funny, like, you just get a higher level of awareness about earthly, day-to-days, things that happen, trends, you know, and that's why it's so interesting when you ask people. Like one of the things that we, you know, used to do before COVID, which we're going to start doing again after it's good to go, but me and my cousins, my Vaguiero side of my family, we would go and bring flowers to all the people in, you know, these essentially like senior citizen care places, but that don't have loved ones coming to visit them. Right? They're just sitting there old, you know, fucking essentially just withering away. Right. So we'd come and like on like Mother's Day, we'd go like bring flowers like the mothers that don't have anybody coming to visit them, whatever. And then we do that also on different things like Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
Like that.
exactly. Right. So we'd go do that, and one of the things that I always like to do it because I started this business when I was 17, and we started to do this after that. But what I've gotten fascinated with, and I still do to this day, is asking them questions. Right, because these people, there's something they have that I don't.
Yeah,
truly listen to them.
They have more time on this planet than I do, right?
Yeah.
They've seen different things.
It's valuable.
So, but I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, you know, when you are at that level where it's like you don't know how many days you have left, or months, or years, whatever it is, you know, it's like what is on your mind, right? Because you have an expiration date that's fucking ticking.
Yeah.
You hear the timer.
Yeah.
And so I think that in moments like that, like they have seen things that we haven't seen, which is why I think like I have, in certain areas of my life, I've definitely become more patient, right? Because of what I've seen, what I've over the past with my business, with my wife and stuff, you know. Sure. But I think that it's so you gain that experience and you gain a higher level of awareness to when do you deploy patience, who do you deploy patience to. Who deserves patience? Who doesn't deserve patience?
Are we listening now? Patience is making its way back in.
Yeah.
It's making its way back in. It's climbing back in.
Patience is suffocating for a little bit.
It's coming back full circle. I think what you just said is like crucial though too, you know, because like it's definitely a thing that you get to pick and choose. Right? Like, because like we said earlier, like complacency, like I think there's different levels at which you give it. Like the level at which you give patience to yourself should be different than the level at which you give to your grandma on a call, right? Like when you sit and reflect on John Vaguiero and the empire you're building, you should use your patience, but it's a little. Then when you go sit with your team and you got your guy who's been with you for 10 years or a kid who just started for 10 days, you have to know how to talk with them and in literal like change of conversation. Talk with them almost with a different tone because you may have to be less patient with this person and then over here be, all right, listen, you're going to be a little bit more patient and allow that to grow. Because one thing I also take from fighting and coaching that world is I say there's a difference between rushing and like urgency, but they're both fast.
Right.
So similar thing where it's like.
But they're totally different.
I
But
say
they're
be
totally
I say
different.
be fast, but don't rush.
Right.
And
Like,
people, I say it to
Yeah.
and people's eyes go like, wait, what did you just say?
Right.
And I'm like, be fast. I know it doesn't really make as much sense, but be fast, but don't rush. And I'm like,
Right.
you're basically just telling me not to rush. Right. I'm telling you could develop pace and you could be fast.
Right.
But there's a difference between rushing and being fast.
right.
You know?
And now as a leader over time,
Right.
you've been able, and we are getting better and better as well, and we're always constantly trying to grow, but the ability to change that
Correct.
very, very quickly.
Correct.
And tonnage, and it's now it's like day in and day out. And I think another thing you said is the people we love the most. I went through this with my mom when I was training her. You want the best for them, and you know they have it in them, and you
Yes.
want it to come out right now.
Right.
And that can lead to being a little bit
Aggressive,
over aggressive, a little,
over-
a little
Yes.
too much.
I agree with that.
And then
Shuts them down.
I
I
pull
agree.
back, and I'm like, damn, like it's not what you say, it's how you say it. We say that a
Oh,
lot,
man,
right?
yeah.
So I was saying the right stuff, but my tone, my demeanor, that wasn't nice. It's my mom. I want to build her, right? So
Yes.
that was one of the first lessons for me of being like, listen, I can't speak like I love her. I don't want her to leave here and be like, well, I thought I was doing the right thing. Like,
Yeah, you have to
I don't
treat her
want,
differently.
like I don't want that, right?
Yeah,
so,
man.
it's important to be able to understand who your audience is, you know, and,
Totally.
and how you deliver it.
I could not agree more with that, man. That's fire. Is that a mac and cheese doodle original?
I think that was, man.
I created it on the couch, kid. I was
This is
prepping-
on the
I was prepping on the couch.
After our second cheese doodle reference, John has a podcast, Breaking Barriers, which is also on all the same platforms, and we've been fortunate enough to be guests on it a few times. And on our last one, which was one of our best, we were trying to dig at Matt John was trying to dig at Matt what he does on his downtime. Like what he couldn't think of. And it was funny because it came up yesterday. And
yeah.
we're doing a practice with or not a practice. We're doing something for
I thought deep
our
down,
next
I'm gonna add to
our
this.
next flow of content, right?
Yeah.
For Meet the Squad Mondays for
Right.
us. So we're wrapping up our instructional stuff. We're going to do an activity outside of the facility. So each coach is going to record them doing something they enjoy to do.
Right.
So
I love it.
he's like, I don't know what to do.
I'm gonna allow it. Then. Go
Hold on.
ahead.
Let the record state, right? So the new and listen, despite what people might believe here, right? This is a popular name that I think it might stink. Matty Cheese Doodle. But it's not because he eats cheese doodles. It's because he's anti-cheese doodles.
Right, he doesn't
That
like
we
them.
call him Matty Cheese
I don't know. I get it.
No,
Cheese
get it,
doodle
I
down
get
to
it.
salad first. But I was elaborating, right? So I'm trying to think, but like, I think there's definitely things that I like to do. Like I've done things like throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's definitely things that are also on my horizon, which I'm slowly integrating in now more than like I want to get into golfing, Paul golf. So I want to get into that, right?
Oh, we all gotta go, by the way.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Um,
Sooner than later.
but the
Next
more-
week,
the-
no.
I'm in. Seriously.
the more I thought about it too, though, like, and it's tough because it's a tough thing. Like, and I know you guys will understand it, but like this movement for me, it's like a competition. Like it's like a game. Like I'm competing in my game every day. Like I'm
Yeah.
so fulfilled here,
Right.
and I move. I work out. I do these different things, and it's like. That is the game. Like that is what. Like that's what I do. It's like what my brain does. Like I don't know how to. Like I'm so focused in a good way though. Like I
Right.
don't. It's not a
Yeah,
burden
for sure.
to me. Like
Yeah.
it's
Right.
like fun. Like on that downtime, I'm like I need my downtime. Don't get me wrong. I want to hang out with my wife and my baby, and I want to be present more than ever. I'm the best at being present I've ever been.
Yeah.
But like it's fun now more than ever on this competition that I've set out to do and building this empire and surrounding ourselves with good people and feeling the energy and coming in. We got new young coaches and like that's the game. Like I'm playing the game. So
Right.
like for me, like I'm having like I could have more fun than ever doing it. Right? Do I think that I should get back into doing some stuff? We used to play basketball. Like, we used to do all that stuff too.
Right.
But then this took over. I went all
Right.
in, and I think.
Yeah.
But now I think it's time to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But golf would probably be the next thing on my list.
Right.
I could also say though to like he's that's just how he operates and what he does. Like even when we were when we first opened and we weren't really doing as much as we thought we were doing, and we had all
Right,
this
yeah.
time on our plate. He was still and we're all this, right? But he was more so of family, like home life, like,
Right.
and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think again, we're talking about patience and forcing things and trying to be things you aren't and be too aggressive, right? You don't have to find any. You know what I mean? Like that's all good. I think by default we're a little bit more alike in that fashion of like I'm on the move, and my wife tells me all the time like you don't have to go over there just because. But I network, I socialize in that way. That's how I do it.
Right.
I'm a present person. I'm an active person. I'll go over on a Wednesday night, grab a beer and some food at the Arc, and go to my buddy's house in Brick, and we'll play cornhole till freaking 10 o'clock at night. Right. And for me, even with my son here now, that's how I live, and honestly, a lot of it is because that's how I keep myself balanced. Right. For me, sitting and thinking it could get me to too much of a deep place. Right. But what I'm saying is like he had to. We're laughing and joking about it because he had to dig in hard and think about other things he does. But the reality is he's a little more of a work and homebody with his family and with his daughter and with his wife, and his parents come over often, and his in-law. You know what I mean? So there's nothing wrong with that in the world. No. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with it. But it is funny. It's funny just because he was trying to dig out and it may open your eyes to maybe pop in and do a couple more different things and get out there a little differently for yourself, right? But the fact of the matter is when we all sit down at the end of the day, we know what we're doing for us and what we need to do.
Right. And listen, and just so you know, this is actually an intervention, man. He's here filming this, so we actually have it.
Everybody come out.
Matt's wife, everybody come out. No, but I think. Listen, I'm glad we brought that back up though, because I think again, just to reiterate this on your podcast, there is like fucking so many people do different things to make themselves happy, right?
For sure.
And I think having patience, going back to fucking patience. This patience thing's kind of grown on me. but I think one of the things though too is people who beat themselves up over certain things, or like they really push themselves down over not being at a certain place or having too high expectations. Right. Which I would do to myself a lot when I was starting and growing, and even before that when I was younger. But like I think having patience and and just really, really not beating yourself up over the fact, because like, listen, at the end of the day, like what you do to make you happy in your off time, right, of not being on the grind, right, is so much different from what my man behind the camera does in his free time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like everybody, it's to each to own, right? So, but like at the end of the day, as long as we figure out what we want to put our direction, like what sail or what direction we put in the sail in, right? For sure. Because it's so hard for me to say, because I know that most people don't know what they want to do, still, right? Like it's one of the biggest blessings in the world that you guys know, and you have conviction, right? And same with me, right? Like, but a lot of people don't know that. Yeah. Most of the world don't know that, and hate their fucking jobs. Right. So, or what they do,
or they have an issue,
or they have an issue with their bodies, or their, or they have an issue with like, what something that's going on with them, with their appearance or whatever it is. And I think that's the only other place that I would say, and I don't even know if I would use the words patience with that, but like, it's like it's just giving yourself enough space to understand that you're not supposed to be perfect, right? For sure. You're not supposed to, have fucking flawless hair like Matty Cheese. Both you
guys. Both you guys.
I know. Coming for you.
Both you guys.
But and I think I think this is a fucking awesome topic. It definitely made me think a lot, and hopefully it helps people.
Right. I'm gonna go deeper real quick though too on this real quick. So as I elaborate in my mind, because I'm always reflecting, right? And I think as we've talked about these phases, so like I'm trying to think in my mind of the phases that I've gone through. And when I go back to when I began the journey, I think that I put so much pressure and standard for myself that I could do not. Like when I see the vision, I see the takeover of the industry. Like it's so big, and that's what I've always seen since I'm little. So like for me, it was just so overwhelming. So I feel like I put myself in such a state of survival mind that all I could do was build, lay one brick. Like Will Smith has a great story, if you can find it on YouTube, and he talks about laying the brick. Like to build the empire doesn't start with building the empire, it starts with one beautiful brick and being in the moment. And I think in the beginning, like all I did was put time in, make phone calls, listen, grow, study the people that I saw were doing these huge things, and I almost like didn't allow myself to do like anything else. Like I was like, I took myself out of it. I was like, you don't deserve that stuff almost in a way. Like,
when you really probably did, when you did.
Or maybe I should have, right? But I think looking back, complimenting it, like maybe it was the right thing to do, maybe it wasn't. I don't know, but it is what it is, right? And I think I wouldn't have done it any other way because I think it taught me how to have like laser focus when I need it.
Yes.
And now I think I understand more than ever that I can be so diligent. I own time now more than ever, so I can be so diligent. We've done a shift where I don't need to be in the facility to be a leader, to bring value, and to keep the movement alive now. But I had to earn it to almost myself, right? So like, I feel more connected not inside of the facility than we've ever had. The work we've put into building our team, our core values, and our culture, I think is giving me. I have a lot of anxiety.
Right.
Like I'm going against this huge thing, so it's like I can't take a break. Like, what is the next guy's pushing for? Like, I gotta keep digging. Like, I'm at war right now, right?
Yes.
So I think it's been a journey, right? I was all in. This is blood in, blood out. Like, there's no option mentality for me. So I think it was the amount of pressure I put on myself. But I'm grateful for these conversations because I'm searching. I haven't stopped thinking about that since that day, and it's funny because it did come up yesterday, right? Because
we laughed when it came up yesterday.
It allows me to dig.
So I was telling him what we were doing. He was like, "This again, like the activity that I do."
But like, it's so I think it's just a different dynamic for me. Like, I think it's now at this point. We've talked about this too. We've molded the world so much too. So like, if I do go home a little earlier, I could be on the headphones. I could go for a walk with the baby. I could call a lead. I'm doing a little bit. I'm tying the worlds together.
Yes.
Is there a time where I just strap up and I come in and I'm at war inside of here with my squad? Yeah. But I think allowing and seeing the ability now for us to stay connected and still be great leaders in different ways is giving me this like, I could do business. We could go play golf, which is fun because I love competing and I love being coached. We could also go with John, hang out, talk some business. Maybe you bring someone else, we meet somebody. Now all of a sudden, I'm connecting fun with my movement, and now it's even more fun for me because when I hang out.
And I think when you can make that connection, that's when
the
difference happens.
That's what I needed, I think, for me.
When we started this podcast out, I was anti-patience. I'm back on the anti-patience train now. So you just said something that fucking just literally gave me the clarity. Remember, I was like, I don't know what the right word is, what the phrase is. I think I would replace the word patience with understanding. You said that. I'm understanding, right? Because patience is, all right, just calm down a little bit, relax, as opposed to, understand it more. Let's figure it out a little bit, Yep. So you said that, and that popped to me. But another thing that Tony Robbins always says, though, he's like, people, and this came up in my podcast where, it's like, people ask Tony Robbins, like, do you ever just fucking sit down on the couch and this is the whole thing came up and eat a bag of cheese doodles or Doritos? And Matt was like, I do. Yeah. Remember that? but the whole thing, though, is that he talks about how he doesn't stay in these places or he doesn't do certain things like that. And he's like, the interviewer was like, don't you get pissed off? Somebody's got to piss you off and you just lose your shit once in a while. And he's like, what I've changed my mindset to is I'm fascinated by things, right? If something happens outer body experience to me, right? He has a different awareness, right? If something happens outside of my body and my mind that is supposed to make me upset, I'm going to be fascinated about why that's going to make me upset or whatever else, as opposed to being pissed. But I still think that's a level of understanding. For sure.
And he also says, which I love, that things happen for you, not to you.
Correct.
And if you could take that in and apply it, and I think to kind of wrap up everything we just said in a way would be like, I think time in, the only way to get to this point is putting time in. Like, we've had so many adversities come over to us where in reality we've never really said it out loud, but in deep down we're probably both thinking like, how the fuck are we going to figure this shit out? But we did. So now, like you're saying, I think it's an understanding. I know who we are, and we're together. Like, we're an unstoppable force now. Right. It's a fact. Right. So I think in the beginning, when they say you gotta fake it till you make it, I know that I'm gonna take the game over. I know the level at which I will be perceived in this industry, from fitness to human development to speaking to the things that I want, the amenities, flying privately, like all those. I know I'll get those things. In the beginning, maybe I was like forcefully proving it to myself because I believed it, but I wanted everyone else to believe
Correct.
it.
Right.
Now, I don't need nobody else to believe it because I believe it. And I know it, and then that's it.
That's
so,
all it takes.
So now I just believe, I put the work in, I surround myself with the right people, and I know no matter what comes, it doesn't matter anymore because we have the equation. It's a simple equation. Let's assess what's going on. Let's step back. Let's understand it. And let's figure out a solution. Let's go. If that doesn't work, we're just going to keep doing it now. It's just that's it. And as long as we don't say you only lose when you decide you lose.
Yeah.
If we look at each other and say, well, we lost,
Right.
that's when it's over. Otherwise, it's just some fun-ass
Totally.
lessons and we're just playing the game.
And
Correct.
to break it all down, I want John to really close us off good here because he's always got good finishers, good stuff to finish it up.
Right.
But ultimately, like there's two main phases in life, in growth of a business, in growth of a person, and it's the building point where there is a little more head down and understanding and learning about things, and there's the growing point where you've surpassed a lot of that and you handle things in the way that we're speaking about more so, right? So that being said, we battled with patience this whole episode, this whole discussion, but we ultimately found that there is a purpose for it, and it's finding and understanding how to use patience in whatever fashion you think, whether it's to understand it more, to have more faith in those moments, right? But I think the biggest thing you said towards the end here was to have a solution right away and be solution based and understand it rather than focus on the negative and then patience is a bad thing and and what do I do? Just give it time. No, like in this moment, push patience away and figure out what your solution is going to be and how you're going to figure it out. So that being said, hit the people. You know, took this from you and a lot of finishers, but hit the people with something to leave them off with, to attack the rest of their night, their day, their morning, their workout, whatever they're going into right now after listening to the Relentless Way.
So first off, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure.
Of course.
Always. I have so much love for you guys. I
Yep.
appreciate and respect what you guys are doing here
Yep.
with your movement as well as obviously this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, having that said, I think right now, you guys ever watch WWF when you're growing up?
Of course, 100%.
You know Triple H?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I've been working on right now is Triple H in my life, right? Which is doing and acting. It's having heart, it's having hunger, and it's being happy, right? Those are three things for me right now that I'm more focused on than ever, right? Because I have to go back. Because at this point now, you know, Dathling Social is a successful company. We're growing, like you said, we're an unstoppable force, bro. And I have to dig. I want to be able to challenge myself to keep that level of hunger, right? Where I was knocking on doors, had no fucking dollars to my name, that type of shit. But for everybody out there in your journey, I think a lot of times, and this is a little bit controversial, you know, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole again, but I think that a lot of times people think that in the beginning of their journey, whether it's career, whether it's starting a business, whatever the fuck it is, maybe a relationship, that it's supposed to be, like, because you have people out there, and this is where I highly disagree with people like Gary Vee, where he's always like, be happy, 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 hustle, 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 be happy. And the biggest thing, though, is, like, in the beginning, it's supposed to be fucking really hard. You're not supposed to be happy all the time, okay?
Sure.
This is the truth, right? So you're not going to be happy all the time. I always, like, joked around when I was younger, before I started the business, and I was always like, listen, I'll shovel shit if it'll take care of my family, and I can do the right thing, and I'll do what I gotta do. I'll learn how to be the best at it. But I think the biggest thing, though, is that we live in a world now where people think that, like, oh my God, I'm not happy doing this, or this is taking too long, or this is not the right thing. And happiness is something that, you know, you develop, right? You build, right? You're in charge of your happiness. But you're not supposed to be happy all the time. And in the beginning, especially when you're building something, your hands, your fucking nails are dirty, right? You're clawing. So you know, again, and some people like wrestling in the mud, right? Like I'm that guy. I love that shit. Like, so for me, when I was starting it, I wasn't always happy because there's rejection, right? And you have to kind of like train your brain to look at something that's we've been taught as a society to look at as negative, right? Like if somebody says to you, you know, gives you feedback in a certain way or rejects you, in most cases that's a negative thing. It's a bad experience. Sometimes people look at that as a traumatizing experience, right? So you have to, you know, get comfortable with getting, you know, uncomfortable, right? That's the biggest thing, right? And it's a weird thing. But I think the three things right now that I would say that people should look at and assess wherever you are in your career, and if you're at the point where you're still starting, then maybe, you know, happiness isn't always the biggest thing right now, right? You have to build to get to that point, and you can make yourself happy, by changing the way you think about certain things, you know, and like,
Sure.
so when I was door knocking, like I would go and I would probably fucking knock on like, fuck dude, like per day when I was starting, I would probably knock on like 50 to 60 doors a day. And I would be lucky if I got one person to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and typically that yes would be closer to the end of the day, right? And I would do that in the wintertime, freeze my fucking nads off out there, right? So I think, you know, those moments, was I excited? Did I want to get back up and go back outside and do that again the next day? Fuck no. I definitely did not want to do that. But I did it, and I had my mentality, which is, again, live a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't, right? So I think that patience is a cop-out. I'm sticking to that. And I think that I like understanding and faith better, right? Having understanding, having faith. And I hope everybody out there creates, you know, a great day for themselves listening into this, because, you know, personal development is the biggest thing that matters. You know, the only thing that matters in life is progression, right? And that's what makes people happy. It's progress.
Right.
Nobody ever sitting still was super happy, right? Like,
Yeah.
you want, everybody's creatures of change now. So progression is the only thing that matters. So I hope everybody out there creates an amazing, you know, essentially day for themselves, because you're in charge.
For sure. We love it. So, The Relentless Way podcast, Johnny V here. Always a great time. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and also tune in on YouTube, because there's a lot of animation in this episode here today. So, a lot of fun. Definitely try to get your eyes on it.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone, for listening in. Share away. We really, really ask that everyone starts with episode 1, because we like to bring you along the journey, along the whole Relentless Way. So, thanks again, and get after it, everyone.
Thank
Love
you,
it.
guys. Thank you,
Thank
John.
you. Thank you.